Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly for pricing. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we discuss a recent release from Moser Cie of Schaffhausen, Switzerland. This is the Pioneer Tourbillon Blue Lagoon in blackened titanium and rose gold. This is a sports watch, 42.8 millimeters in diameter by 15.2 millimeters thick, from lug tip to lug tip, 50.9 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist here, and you can see it's a large watch, no doubt. I believe you need a 16 centimeter circumference wrist like mine or larger to wear this watch, because almost 51 millimeters, but also physically quite imposing and massive physically. This is a watch that would overwhelm a wrist any smaller than mine. It's just a very strong timepiece that makes a strong statement and insists upon being seen. Taking a quick look, we'll do a cuff withdrawn shot so you have a better sense of it. It's not the thickest watch, certainly not once you factor in the actual shape of the bezel and the crystal, but you can see from down the barrel, those lugs sort of are out to the edge of my wrist, and over the top you can see I just don't have a lot of room to neck down with smaller wrists, so 16 centimeters circumference and up. That said, the strap is delightful. It's perforated for ventilation, and on the bottom you can see this is a brand new Moser factory strap, no crimping, no gouging. On the top there's some little forms molded in above the perforations. We have here a matching DLC titanium buckle. And Moser buckles generally echo the design of the cases. So you have coining on the flank of the buckle, and you have coining on the flank of the case. You'll also note, if you look really carefully, the buckle features coining, satin, and polish. So it's actually a fairly thoughtful, tiny piece. No detail is ever overlooked on a Moser watch. You have these recesses. Moser cases are generally machined and then hand finished, which allows you to do things that couldn't conventionally be achieved with machining or stamping alone. Those are the two primarily mass production techniques used by most of the industry. That second step of hand finishing allows these distinctions between different surfaces and deep hollows to be achieved. Now we have blackened titanium and we have rose gold. You can see the rose is incorporated with polish, but also with satination. My favorite detail is when you look at the lugs end on, you can see how the two have been positioned so flush against each other that they appear to be co-molded. Then we have a bezel with a domed profile, though if you look, the case has a little bit of a case top that's been satinated, a detail often missed on Pioneer case construction. That's always been there, but it's a lovely detail. We have a media blasted screw down crown. The watch is 120 meters water resistant, so this really is a sports watch. And then we've got no shortage of luminescence with your hours, minutes, and then the rejo around the dial. The chapter ring feature individual hours. We have rose gold faceted indices for the hours, rose gold foil or leaf style hands. And then we have the blue Lagoon dial. Moser, famous for its colorful gradient dials that start off bright at the center and fade almost black at the edge, and that is in fact what you have at the edge here. There's a very subtle sunburst metallic graining to it, and then you can see just barely as I roll through the light the Moser Cie clear lacquered nomenclature in the script. The rationale here being that you know whose watch this is, and frankly they're right, this does look like a Moser. They also don't put Swiss made on their dial, and there's a reason for that. At Moser, they make somewhere around 3,500 to 5,500 watches a year out of Schaffhausen, German Switzerland. And 90 to 95% of those watches are Swiss content, whereas the Swiss content standard for Swiss-made labeling is 60%. So Moser would rather not have Swiss-made because that could mean as little as 60%, whereas if you know Moser, you know that they're 90 to 95. Now the tourbillon is pretty exceptional, not because it's a flying tourbillon, though it is. Flying tourbillons have no upper bridge, so they don't block your view. It's a 1-minute tourbillon, so it can access the seconds hand, and acting as the seconds hand, it's beating away at 3 hertz or 6 beats per second. And on the bottom, in order to brace it with a broad platform, since there is no upper pivot to hold it fast, it uses ceramic bearings, which is a fascinating way of anchoring a tourbillon. But the real standout feature here, it's not even that it's free-sprung, which is a great way of making a robust and accurate mechanism that can be tuned precisely. No. It's the 2 identical flat hairsprings. 180 degrees opposed because they are physically identical, but also exactly opposite in orientation. In any position, gravity will cause one to beat faster and the other by an equal and opposite margin to beat more slowly. So in any position, these hairsprings cancel out the effects of gravity. So it doesn't matter here that the usual tourbillon objection in a wristwatch format is that it's not going to sit in one position. It only works against gravity to cancel out the effects if it's in one position, as with a pocket watch. That's the normal objection to a wristwatch tourbillon. It's just there for aesthetics. And in fact, it's true. If you don't have a double hairspring, you do have to keep the watch in one position all day and adjust for that. And that's how a pocket watch tourbillon works. Wristwatches, by comparison, find themselves in every position and moving quickly. So you need this double hairspring system. So instantaneously, they will cancel out the effects of gravity, with the revolving carriage of the tourbillon more or less just on for the ride. It's not a huge component of the watch's chronometry, so it's beautiful, but it's the hairsprings that are really the key. Now, there's a lot more going on here, since Moser makes the hairsprings, the balance, and the escapement in-house through Precision Engineering, which is its subsidiary for this kind of part. They actually sell hairsprings to everyone throughout the industry. They're one of the top hairspring suppliers in the business. And there are a lot of movement manufacturers that boast of making movements who can do bridges, plates, and wheels, but when they get to the assortment, the balance, the hairspring, and the escapement, they run out of gas because that's just so specialized. Moser doesn't have to buy those parts, they make them themselves. Now here you have manufacturer caliber HMC 804, bidirectional winding. It uses a magic lever style pawl-based winding system, 72-hour power reserve, 3 Hz beat rate, free sprung, flying tourbillon, double hairspring, and some aesthetic features that I appreciate. First, you can see that the bearings at center are ceramic for lower friction. Take a look at the bridges. A double striped Côte de Genève, a unique feature of Moser watches. You've got a bevel that's mostly mechanical, but handsomely done and definitely worthwhile. The tourbillon carriage itself features the most extensive hand finishing, and you can see here the bevels on every surface, including the interior hollows, quite well laid, with black polish on the stud holders and the studs, and then satination across the top of the bridge. You can see it's got a great deal of depth to it, and all the pieces, including the bridge for the escapement below, uniformly beautiful. On the back, it's more of a medley of machine and hand finish, though there are some standout features like the snailing on the edge of the bridges, the black polishing of the screws, the golden chaton cup for the barrel arbor, fixed by polished screws, a nod to the way Moser pocket watches were made in the 19th century. And although we have multi-part bridges here, they're designed to read as a 3/4 bridge, just like a Moser pocket watch from the 19th or early 20th century. And then we have solarization at the center of the rotor bearing, and we have a rotor made of rose gold with beveling, snailing, and media blast, all 3 of them. This is a spectacular watch, a spectacular tourbillon, and incredibly wearable with loom, automatic winding, and meaningful water resistance. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.